Man About the House once captivated millions of viewers with its joyful laughter, but behind the spotlight of the screen lay the real-life tragedies of its talented cast. From broken marriages, struggles with addiction, to sudden deaths, their lives contained secrets that left fans shocked. Let's explore the tearful journeys of the stars who have passed away and pay tribute to the legacies they left behind. Let's get started. Utha Joyce as Mildred Roper. Utha Joyce, whose full name was Utha Joyce Needham, was born on August 20th, 1927, and portrayed the sharp and ambitious Mildred Roper in the sitcom Man About the House, 1973 to 1976, when she was 46 years old. This role turned Joyce into a British television icon, standing out with her bitter yet subtle humor alongside Brian Murphy. Not stopping there, she continued to bring Mildred back in the spin-off George and Mildred, 1976 to 1979, winning over audiences with the image of a wife always longing to rise above her station. However, behind the spotlight, Utha Joyce's life carried many hidden pains and tensions. She grew up in a family of artists, but was judged by her parents as having no talent, forcing her to bravely push back against their scorn to pursue acting. What seemed to be a peaceful marriage with actor Glyn Edwards quickly fell apart, throwing Joyce into a period of crisis and loneliness that made her feel even more pressured. The insecurity of being forever tied to the image of Mildred, along with constant public scrutiny, pushed her into despair, while her passion for acting still smoldered, having once flared up in a chilling villain role in Fanatic, 1965, or with tragic shades in Our Mother's House, 1967. As the years went by, the fear of unemployment and the sense of being trapped in one type of role led Joyce deeper into alcohol, with reports revealing that she drank up to half a bottle of brandy every day for decades. Failed romances after her divorce only worsened her depression, until she herself became a victim of the Mildred character the public adored, with no way out. She once believed every role would be the last of her career, and that anxiety relentlessly tore at her spirit, leading to countless nights lost in drink, facing the darkness alone. By the summer of 1980, after completing the film adaptation of George and Mildred, Joyce's health collapsed. Her liver was severely damaged, her lungs and heart were exhausted, leading to acute liver failure, and her death just 4 days after her 53rd birthday. She was cremated at Golders Green Crematorium, her ashes scattered among the crocuses, closing a life full of tragedy. It is estimated that Joyce left behind about $500,000 USD in net worth, a modest number compared to her brilliant talent. Brian Murphy as George Roper. Brian Trevor. John Murphy, born on September 25, 1932, left a strong impression playing George Roper, a simple, bumbling husband easily dominated by his wife but full of comedic charm, in the sitcom Man About the House, 1973 to 1976, when he was 41 years old. With a natural, down-to-earth acting style, he turned George into part of British television history. Brian then continued to reprise George in the spin-off George and Mildred, captivating audiences for many years. Yet beyond the on-screen laughter, his life was full of unspoken worries and losses. Brian's childhood was haunted by the grief of losing 2 older brothers in World War II, a tragedy that left him with a profound sense of emptiness and insecurity as he grew up. Starting his career from small, underpaid stage jobs, he struggled to make ends meet and at times considered quitting acting to sell insurance for a living. It was only the unexpected role in Alcock and Gander, 1972, that opened a way out, though the burden of daily survival always lingered, making him spend many sleepless nights fearing he would lose his career and fail to provide for his family. Marriage also did not bring Brian a peaceful harbor. His first relationship with Carol Gibson, though lasting over 2 decades, eventually ended in the 1980s, leaving him with lingering doubts and deep loneliness. That pain was made even worse when Utha Joyce, his co-star and kindred spirit on set, died suddenly in 1980 from alcohol addiction. It took Brian a long time to rebuild his spirit, before finding trust again with his second wife, Linda Regan, then slowly reaffirming his name through Last of the Summer Wine, 2003-2010, though his heart still carried many silent scars. In the final years of his life, even past 90, Brian still passionately pursued acting and was preparing to appear in a film with his wife in mid-2025 when he was unexpectedly diagnosed with bone cancer. Just 3 weeks later, he passed away on February 2, 2025, at 92 years old. It is estimated Brian Murphy left behind a net worth of about $2 million USD, a worthy amount for a long and persistent career. Doug Fisher as Larry Simmons. Douglas Marjoribanks Fisher was born on September 20, 1941, in London, and made a strong impression playing Larry Simmons, the funny, playful, and somewhat cheeky neighbor in the sitcom Man About the House, 1973-1976, when he was 32 years old. Across 27 episodes, Doug Fisher turned Larry into an indispensable part of the legendary trio alongside Robin and Chrissy, leaving an unforgettable mark in viewers' hearts. Fisher's humorous and free-spirited portrayal of Larry earned high praise in British sitcom history throughout the 1970s. But behind the laughter, Doug Fisher's life was filled with turbulence and pain. Coming from a background without formal dramatic training, he always had to put in extra effort to prove himself, which led him to prioritize his career over family. Both of Fisher's marriages ended in bitterness, leaving fractured relationships with his children and burdening him with years of lingering guilt. Even though he found another chance for success with the role of Jim Medhurst in London's Burning, 1988 to 1993, he never rediscovered the warmth of family life, gradually becoming lonely and withdrawn from the spotlight. The heavy workload and the haunting memories of failed marriages wore down Fisher's health, weakening his heart seriously. In his final years, although he still took on supporting roles in series such as Jonathan Creek, 1997, he always carried an air of fatigue and doubt, no longer believing in personal happiness. He once shared that the spotlight was only temporary, but the loneliness was what truly clung to him. On July 9, 2000, Doug Fisher died of a heart attack at just 58 years old, closing a life filled with many ups and downs. It was estimated that his net worth at the time of his death was only about $300,000 USD, a modest sum compared to the beloved roles he had played. Dennis Waterman as Frank Wasserman. Dennis Waterman, born on February 24, 1948, left a mark even with just a short guest role as Frank Wasserman in the episode Did You Ever Meet Rommel of Man About the House in 1974, when he was 26 years old. He appeared in this series thanks to his popularity for tough guy roles in The Sweeney and Minder, where he also performed the theme songs, becoming a pop culture icon. Waterman's strong, charismatic image resonated with generations of British audiences for decades. But outside the stage lights, Dennis's life was full of storms. He went through 4 marriages, most notably with actress Patricia Maynard, the mother of his 2 daughters, including Hannah Waterman, which ended bitterly due to conflicts and distance. His relationships with his children also became strained as Waterman poured nearly all his energy into his career, neglecting his family and leaving wounds that were hard to heal. His next marriage to Rula Lenska even collapsed amid accusations of violence and public scandals. Alongside his successful career, Dennis also had to battle alcohol addiction, leading to driving bans and gradually giving him the reputation of a rebellious, unruly artist. The pressure of fame, failed marriages, and drinking habits repeatedly dragged him into scandals, even though he still made efforts to bounce back and shine with new tricks, 2003 to 2014. These efforts proved his extraordinary resilience, but could not erase the chain of controversies that followed him throughout his career. Dennis Waterman died of lung cancer on May 8, 2022 in Spain at 74 years old. His net worth was estimated at about $5 million USD, worthy of more than 60 years of dedication to the arts. Daphne Oxenfford as Chrissy's mother. Daphne Margaret de Oxenfford was born on October 31st, 1919, in North Finchley, and appeared on the small screen as Mrs. Plummer, Chrissy's mother, in the sitcom Man About the House in 1973, when she was 54 years old. Although this role appeared in only 3 episodes, it left a mark thanks to the image of a strong mother, a bit strict yet full of love. Daphne's voice had already become deeply familiar to audiences through the radio program Listen with Mother, and now continued to win over television viewers with her natural, subtle acting. However, her private life carried a lingering pain. In her youth, Daphne lost her first love in a tragic traffic accident, leaving a void that could never truly be filled. Although she later married and had 2 daughters, the trauma of that loss continued to follow her for decades, causing Daphne to often keep an emotional distance from those around her, afraid of another heartbreak. She found comfort in the arts, dedicating decades of her life to the BBC and theater stages, but rarely spoke openly about that inner wound. In her final years, Daphne had to face loneliness when her husband, David Marshall, passed away in 2003 after more than half a century together. She moved into Denville Hall, a care home for artists, where her health gradually declined due to age and chronic illnesses. Even so, she tried to stay in touch with old colleagues, sometimes reading books and reminiscing about her glory days on Coronation Street or The Children of Green Know, works that had earned her great appreciation from the audience. Daphne Oxenfford passed away of natural causes on December 21, 2012, at the age of 93. Her net worth was estimated at about $400,000 USD, a modest figure but one that honestly reflected a life of wholehearted dedication to the arts. Roy Conir as Jerry. Roy Mitchell Conir was born on January 8, 1934, and appeared on the small screen in Man About the House in 1974, when he was 40 years old, in the role of Jerry, a funny, sharp-witted supporting character who often brought comedic relief to the tense moments of the show. Although he did not appear frequently, Conir's Jerry still managed to leave an impression thanks to his charming acting style and great chemistry with the main cast, further cementing his reputation in British comedy. Behind the image of a likable man on screen, Roy Conir had to endure enormous pressures as his career became busier, leading to frequent family tensions. His marriage to Carmel Cryan was steady but filled with challenges, especially as they had to devote most of their time to caring for their severely disabled daughter. He constantly struggled between his responsibilities as a father, a husband, and the harsh demands of the entertainment industry, leaving him often exhausted and emotionally distant from his loved ones. Despite these personal tensions, Conir continued to push his career forward, appearing regularly in major projects such as Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, 1971, and the Three Musketeers film series, 1973. However, the dense filming schedule tragically led to disaster when, during production of the Three Musketeers sequel in Spain in 1988, Roy fell from a horse and suffered severe injuries. The consequences of that accident took his life just 1 day later, closing his artistic journey at only 54 years old. Roy Conir left behind a net worth of about $1 million USD, reflecting a long and rich film and television career, but also filled with immense sacrifice. The day he died was a major shock to fans, as his talent and humor are still considered a uniquely precious legacy, deeply missed by the public who loved him. Bella Emberg as traffic warden. Bella Emberg, birth name Sybil Dyke, was born on September 16, 1937, and appeared in Man About the House in 1974, when she was 37 years old, playing the traffic warden. A small role, but one that still brought laughter and charm to the audience. In the series, Emberg's traffic warden was a strict, rule-bound character, yet still infused with humor, helping to enrich the cheerful tone that defined the show. In real life, Bella Emberg carried many silent pains. She went through several failed relationships, never married, and lived with a long-lasting sense of loneliness, something she rarely shared publicly. Without formal acting school training, Emberg struggled to prove her talent in a harsh industry, constantly having to demonstrate that she deserved to be given roles. This feeling of alienation and professional pressure sometimes pushed her into mental crises. Nevertheless, Bella bravely pursued her passion for acting, leaving her mark through famous comedy shows such as The Russ Abbott Show, 1980 to 1996, and Bear Behaving Badly, 2008-2010. But behind the stage lights, her health gradually declined, along with emotional struggles she tried to keep hidden. A career spanning 6 decades could not fill the void of affection, leaving Emberg with lingering regrets and reflections. She died suddenly on January 12, 2018, at the age of 80, with the cause confirmed as alcohol poisoning, shocking the public. The estimated net worth she left behind was about $300,000 USD, partially reflecting a persistent yet financially modest career. Jeremy Bullock as Derek Sutton. Jeremy Andrew Bullock was born on February 16, 1945, and appeared in Man About the House in 1974 when he was 29 years old, in the role of Derek Sutton, a polite and gentle supporting character who added a soft highlight in the lively sitcom atmosphere. Although it was only a short role, Bullock still left an impression thanks to his charm and polished acting before rising to global fame with the role of Boba Fett in Star Wars. In his personal life, Bullock carried deep wounds that were hard to heal. His first marriage ended, leaving him with a sense of emptiness, while the sudden passing of his younger brother brought an unshakable guilt and sorrow. Behind the friendly smile shown to the public, Bullock was always torn between his career and his personal losses, especially when separated from his son during the breakup. After the brilliant successes of The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, Bullock continued to take on smaller projects such as Robin of Sherwood, maintaining his acting passion, but his health began to decline. In his later years, he had to battle Parkinson's disease, which caused tremors and gradually took away his independence, a harsh challenge for someone once proud of his strong on-screen image. The pressure to maintain the Boba Fett image in front of fans added even more mental strain. Jeremy Bullock passed away on December 17, 2020, at 75 years old, in the mourning of the worldwide Star Wars community. He left behind a net worth estimated at about $2 million USD, the result of a 6-decade-long career filled with ups, downs, and dedication. Peter Jones as Mr. Morrison. Peter Jeffrey. Francis Jones was born on June 12, 1920, and appeared in Man About the House in 1975 when he was 55 years old, as Mr. Morrison, a supporting character who brought a charming, polite, and slightly satirical touch to the famous sitcom. With rich experience on stage and radio, Jones skillfully made Mr. Morrison a somewhat stiff but very likable figure, adding humor to the chaotic apartment setting. Although beloved by audiences for his distinctive voice and natural acting, Jones's private life carried much loneliness. He grew up without a father, which forced him to learn self-reliance early on, but also left a difficult-to-fill emotional void. After he married, his marital life could not avoid storms, eventually ending in divorce and leaving many regrets. Not only that, Jones had to endure the shock of losing a lifelong close friend, a trauma that deeply affected his psyche in his later years. Though he still tried to keep up his form through hit radio roles such as The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, his health gradually declined, forcing him to battle leukemia and heart disease, while the loneliness grew heavier with age. Peter Jones passed away in 2000 at 79 years old from complications of sepsis after surgery. His net worth at death was about $400,000 USD, a modest figure compared to the enormous artistic legacy he left behind, which stands as evidence of a career full of effort, yet also quiet and marked by many heartbreaks through his life. Hilda Braid as Mrs. Holland. Hilda Braid was born on March 3, 1929, and joined Man About the House in 1976, when she was 47 years old, playing Mrs. Holland, a supporting character who appeared briefly but brought the image of a perceptive older woman, both strict and charming, into the chaotic life of the apartment block. With a background from RADA and a solid stage foundation, Braid skillfully breathed everyday realism and authenticity into the character, earning the audience's affection despite limited screen time. On stage and on screen, Hilda Braid always projected strength, but behind that lay wounds that were not easy to heal. Her father's early death left her with lifelong worries and a vulnerable heart. Later, her marriage to actor Brian Badco also fell apart in bitterness, forcing her to shoulder the burden of raising her child alone, while also navigating a tense relationship with her daughter Caroline. The pain did not stop there, as her younger brother passed away in the early 1990s, a shock that took Braid many years to recover from. Although she continued to dedicate herself through countless television roles, especially as Nana Moon in EastEnders, her health and memory began to decline, leading inevitably to career setbacks. In her final years, Alzheimer's disease seemed to push her even deeper into loneliness and loss. Braid passed away in 2007 at the age of 78, after a long battle with illness in a nursing home. At the time of her passing, she left behind an estimated net worth of about $200,000 USD, a modest sum compared to a long, dedicated artistic journey, carrying so much joy as well as the silent pains of a resilient artist's heart. Duncan Lamont, as Dr. McLeod. Duncan William Ferguson. Lamont was born on June 17, 1918. He first appeared in Man About the House in 1973, when he was 55 years old, as Dr. McLeod, a sharp yet compassionate doctor who brought moments of pause and humanity to the otherwise comedic sitcom. Though his appearance was brief, Dr. McLeod still left a mark on audiences thanks to the calm, thoughtful presence that Lamont skillfully portrayed. Behind the scenes, Duncan Lamont had to face many layers of pain. 2 failed marriages, both ending in tension and distance, left him without faith in family happiness. His father-son relationship with Alexander also suffered deeply when his only son fell into addiction, leaving a gulf and a sense of helplessness that Lamont could never overcome. Those psychological wounds lingered with him for years, gradually wearing down his health, especially as his heart condition repeatedly flared up. Although he continued to give his all on film sets and theater stages, Lamont became increasingly exhausted, both mentally and physically. His sudden death from a heart attack in 1978 closed the chapter on a brilliant artistic journey, but one steeped in loneliness. Duncan Lamont's net worth at the time of his death was estimated at about $200,000 USD, a modest sum compared to his fame and contributions. That amount stands as a sad reminder that even though he rose to great heights, he could not buy peace of mind, leaving behind a significant cinematic legacy, yet one filled with regret and lingering sorrow. Ian Lavender as Mark. Arthur Ian Lavender was born on February 16, 1946. He made a memorable appearance in Man About the House in 1974 when he was 28 years old. In this episode, he played Mark, an ambitious young actor who was somewhat conceited and obsessed with building his own image, bringing a humorous and satirical touch to the already noisy and complex life of the apartment block. The character of Mark cleverly reflected the artistic illusions of young people of that time, through Lavender's natural and sharp acting. Alongside the spotlight, Lavender also went through lingering difficulties in his career. Although he had once been the golden boy of Dad's Army, he struggled with self-doubt when his later roles did not achieve the same success. The years spent trying to secure his place in a harsh industry left him exhausted and insecure, making Lavender repeatedly fight to hold on to confidence in his own talent. Beyond the professional pressures, Lavender's private life was relatively calm, but not without its own scars. 2 marriages, one ending in divorce, one eventually happy, along with the responsibilities of being a father, forced him to learn to balance fame with family duties. He also had to battle bladder cancer and a heart attack, which made Lavender even more appreciative of the years he could still stand on stage and connect with audiences. Ian Lavender passed away on February 2, 2024, at the age of 77, reportedly from natural causes. His estimated net worth at that time was about $1 million USD, reflecting a long, dedicated career, even if he was never truly wealthy. Richard O'Sullivan, as Robin Tripp. Richard O'Sullivan, born on May 7, 1944, became a beloved face when he took on the role of Robin Tripp, the funny, somewhat romantic young chef in the sitcom Man About the House, 1973 to 1976, when he was just 29 years old. This role propelled him to the height of fame and tied his image to that of the charming, modern man on the small screen. Richard continued portraying Robin in the spin-off Robin's Nest, 1977 to 1981, helping to define the style of British sitcoms. Audiences at the time saw him as a symbol of a whole new generation of comedy. However, behind the spotlight, O'Sullivan's life was filled with private pain and simmering tensions. He went through a bitter divorce from his first wife, Christine Smart, a heartbreak that was hard to heal during the peak of his career. Later, his complicated relationship with actress Tessa Wyatt, who played his girlfriend in Robin's Nest, also ended in separation, even though they shared a son, Jamie. These breakups left Richard with a deep sense of loss, causing him to withdraw and carry a persistent loneliness. As he moved into the 1980s, even though he continued to shine with adventure series like Dick Turpin, 1979 to 1982, and the family comedy Me and My Girl, 1984 to 1988, Richard began to feel the erosion of constant pressure. The fear of being forgotten and the accumulating broken relationships wore down his spirit, pushing him toward mental exhaustion. After suffering a severe stroke in 2003, he was forced to retire from the spotlight and moved into Brinsworth House nursing home in Twickenham, ending the lively chapter of a television star's life. As of 2025, Richard O'Sullivan is 81 years old, with declining health and almost completely absent from the public eye for many years. It is estimated he still has a net worth of around $1 million USD, a modest amount compared to his once dazzling glory. Paula Wilcox, as Chrissy Plummer. Paula Wilcox, born on December 13, 1949, became a star when she portrayed Chrissy Plummer, the lively, intelligent, and slightly mischievous roommate in the sitcom Man About the House, 1973 to 1976, when she was only 23 years old. The role of Chrissy made Wilcox a familiar face to British TV audiences for many years, with 39 charming and popular episodes. That image was deeply etched in viewers' memories, turning Paula into a sitcom icon of the 1970s. Even though her career flourished, Paula's personal life was marked by loss that was not easy to share. She married actor Derek Seaton in 1969, seeming to have found lasting happiness. But just a decade later, Seaton suddenly died from a brain hemorrhage at 35 years old, leaving a wound that was hard to heal. His sudden passing devastated Wilcox for a long time, right during the period she was busy starring in Miss Jones and Son, 1977 to 1978. The emptiness from that loss made her force herself to keep acting to forget the pain. But the shadow of loneliness was always lurking. In the 1990s, as the spotlight began to fade, Paula faced feelings of alienation and pressure when she was no longer in high demand as before. Although she tried to recover through numerous roles in The Queen's Nose, 1995-2001, and Mount Pleasant, 2011 to 2017, she still admitted having endured long, lonely nights, afraid she would forever be the Chrissy Plummer of old in the public's eyes. It was only when she remarried Nelson Skip Riddle, an American businessman, that she gradually found peace and balance after many years of carrying psychological wounds. By 2025, Paula Wilcox is 75 years old and still continues acting, most recently playing Elaine Jones in Coronation Street from 2020 to 2023. It is estimated she has a net worth of around 1.5 million USD, a well-deserved achievement after more than 5 decades of contributing to television and theater, but also a reminder that behind the bright smile of Chrissy Plummer, there has always been a woman who was deeply tormented by the loss of her husband and the pressures of fame. The stories of the Man About the House cast are not just memories of a golden era of British television, but also a reminder of the price of fame and the silent pains behind the stage lights. Who among them do you feel the most sympathy for? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to follow to discover even more fascinating stories about your favorite stars.